Hello and welcome back to PredictIt Live, your exclusive source for real-time coverage of the stock market for politics. Well, it's been 1 week since the New York City mayoral primary, and the first-round leader, Eric Adams, has seen his price on PredictIt steadily erode over the course of that week. What's going on? Well, traders are increasingly wondering if absentee ballots and the ranked choice vote retabulation might wind up tipping the race to not even the runner-up, the third place in the first round candidate, Kathryn Garcia. The New York City Board of Elections is poised to release its first ranked choice vote retabulation this very afternoon, and we have got veteran City Hall reporter Jeff Coltin here to help us wring our hands in anticipation. So let's get to it. Traders, I'm your host, Flip Pideaux, and if you are new to PredictIt, we are setting up viewers, as always, with a free $25 to get you started with your trading. You just go to predictit.org/promo/oldbull25 to collect. If you're joining us live, please feel free to ask any questions in the chat window. We will try to answer as many in real time as possible. And if you're catching us on the replay, of course, feel free to connect with us on Twitter, where we are at Old Bull TV, and our DMs are open. Please also take just a minute to subscribe to the channel while you're here. And as you're doing that, I want to take a quick look at a couple of new markets that actually just hit the site on PredictIt just a few minutes ago. These were ones that folks were kind of eagerly anticipating, given what's going on in the Speaker's office on Capitol Hill. And you see those two in the top middle and top right of your screen there, Cheney on the January 6th committee by August 1st, and Jim Jordan on that same committee by August 1st. Of course, following the failure in the Senate of the bipartisan January 6th commission, we now have Pelosi vowing to create a more singularly partisan select committee on the House side, which of course would not need Senate corroboration to create that. And so we have here these two markets on the two possible Republicans. Pelosi has said that she does intend, even though she gets to name all of the members, she said that she does plan to name one Republican. So there's been speculation as to who that would be. An interesting couple of choices that PredictIt has given us to look at here. Cheney is sort of an obvious one. She's been kind of the de facto leader of the moderate or anti-Trump or sort of pro-January 6th accountability wing, such as it is, of the Republican Party in the House. So no surprise to see her up here. Jim Jordan is a little bit of a more curious choice, I think. I was looking at a bit of his comments just this morning, and he seemed to be blasting the committee as just another opportunity for Democrats to whack away at the president. So I'm not sure of the rationale for a Jordan buy here, but possibly there's something that I'm missing. Those comments or sort of strategic speculation in terms of how Pelosi might go about this that I'm not privy to. So if you're more tuned into that, viewers, please feel free to drop us a line and let us know what the thinking might be there. The other name, of course, well, two names that might be on people's minds in terms of who Pelosi would tap to be sort of the token Republican would be Adam Kinzinger and John Katko. Both of whom have been sort of allied with Cheney and the other sort of pro-accountability, more anti-Trump voices in the 117th Congress to date. However, Katko has come out and said, while he supported, in fact, led the charge on the Republican side for the bipartisan commission, that this being a more partisan affair is something he has no interest in. So obviously we shouldn't expect to see a predicted market for Katko, but Kinzinger might be a more interesting prospect here, and maybe we'll get a follow-up market like the ones for Cheney and Jordan for Adam Kinzinger. Andrew Solender from Forbes quoted Kinzinger just today saying, or Kinzinger spokesman saying, he does not want an investigation to turn political, but, quote, our party blocked that first opportunity and now we need answers. So it does sound as though he's still warm to this idea, even the less bipartisan approach here. And he and Cheney both had similar answers when asked if they would serve. They both simply said, that's up to Speaker Pelosi. So it sounds like both of them would be interested in it if tapped, and they're not coming out blasting the committee as seemingly, virtually, if not literally, every other member of the Republican delegation is. So ones to keep an eye on there. We'll see if we get the follow-up market with Kinzinger named as well. But again, unless we're missing something, I don't think I'd ascribe much value to the long position here on Jordan. But Kinzinger and Cheney would presumably be maybe roughly equally likely to get the nod. We actually ran a Twitter poll, still running it a little bit earlier this morning, in terms of who that Republican might be. And you're seeing it here in the non-logged in view, so you don't see the results. But the current runnings, we have Cheney at 57%, Kinzinger at 37%. So it's giving the slight edge to Cheney, but both of them certainly in the running. So take that as you will in terms of informing your prospective trading on these new markets. So that's what's new to the tape at PredictIt. But of course, the main event today, the thing a lot of folks are looking at is New York City Board of Elections. It is a big day, assuming they do complete the paperwork that they have given themselves a deadline of today to do so. And to break this down for us, as I mentioned in the introduction, is Jeff Coltin. He is live from City Hall. He is a political reporter from City and State New York, and he has been closely following this post-primary day primary race. So, Jeff, thank you for joining us. Thanks for standing by as we looked at a couple of these new markets. But I know you've been keeping an eye on the Board of Elections today, as are we. But can you bring us up to speed in terms of what is it that we're going to get today? This is obviously the first time New York City has been through this ranked choice vote and therefore the retabulation process. So what kind of report are we going to see today, and what does it mean in terms of how it's going to change our perception of who's actually likely to win this race when all the counting's actually finished?
Only the in-person voting. There's still about 130,000 absentee ballots that are not going to be included in this. That's about 14% of the total. We're looking at about 930,000, 950,000 total votes in the Democratic mayoral primary when this is all said and done. So about 86% of the total votes are going to be included in this today. And it's going to be the first time that we get to see voters, number 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s. Voters could rank up to 5 candidates in this first major ranked choice primary in New York. And I'm eagerly waiting, even though it's incomplete data, even though it's not the full total final results. This is going to let us know basically if a comeback is possible. Because right now we've been waiting for a whole week where Eric Adams has a 9.5 percentage point lead on Kathryn Garcia in first place votes and a 12 percentage point lead. Sorry, the 9.5 is over Maya Wiley in first place votes and a 12 percentage point lead over Kathryn Garcia in first place votes. But we're going to get to see those 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s, and they're going to run a ranked choice voting simulation, the tally, and run the votes up basically to the final 2. And basically from that, we're going to see, okay, is Kathryn Garcia that much better at picking up those lower ranked votes than Eric Adams? Or is Eric Adams good enough at getting those lower ranked votes that he can maintain a lead over the second and third place candidates, Wiley and Garcia, and cruise to victory once we get the final results with the absentee ballots? We're going to get most of them a week from today, next Tuesday, July 6th, I think that is, yes. And then we're expecting, unless there's litigation, we're expecting the mayoral race to be finalized and officially called in about 2 weeks, probably around July 12th.
Great. And in the meantime, does the board plan to continue putting out these preliminary or non-final updates periodically as new batches of absentee ballots come in, or do we get this preliminary report now and then nothing, no further glimpse until everything's all said and done?
That's what we're going to be seeing a week from today on Tuesday, July 6th. The Board of Elections is going to run the ranked choice voting system, including all of the absentee ballots that have been counted up to that point. I expect that to be most of them, the vast majority. So I think we're going to have a much more complete look next Tuesday, and then the following Monday or Tuesday after that will be hopefully the final.
Sure. And so the $6 million question here obviously is, does Garcia mount a comeback? And as you sort of laid out the parameters there, she's 12 points back, and that's a huge percentage of her overall vote share too, because I think Adams was something like 31 or 32% with Garcia 9 or 10 points back and Garcia a few more behind that. So I think she was slightly below 20% too. So for her to claw back, that 12 percentage point gap, Obviously, when we look at the trading, she's not favored to do so, but it's somewhat remarkable. Excuse me, I just got some in my eye. It's somewhat remarkable that she's trading even as high as she is. She's now at 15 cents, but last night, she was trading up in the mid to high 20s there for a while as people sort of tried to, stake out their positions in advance of this first preliminary retabulation. Do you think, and again, we don't have any precedent in New York, but from ranked choice votes elsewhere around the country, do you think it's really feasible that she, in a combination of the way the ranked choice retabulation will shake out and the possibly skewed absentees, that she could really claw back that big a differential?
Technically possible, but not feasible. The only time that we've seen candidates overcome huge number one ranked deficits like that is when there's kind of an explicit campaign to not rank Adams, or if two candidates team up and as the second and third choice or whatever. We didn't see that from Kathryn Garcia. Yes, she did team up with Andrew Yang, but there wasn't a really long sustained campaign of saying anybody but Adams. And what I think that means is that Adams is going to do fine picking up seconds and thirds and fourths and fifths, and maybe not as well as Garcia. I think everybody expects Garcia and Wiley to make up a little ground. I think that once we see all first place votes, I don't think Adams is going to hold on to that solid 10 to 12 point lead over them. However, that is a big deficit to make up. Adams is not extremely polarizing. He's appealed across many demographics. I think that he's going to do fine. He's going to pick up a lot of Andrew Yang votes, and especially if Maya Wiley is one of the candidates to be eliminated, Adams is going to pick up actually a lot of Wiley votes because we see a lot of crossover between those two candidates among Black voters. There's a lot of Black voters out there who, at least according to polls, ranked both Wiley and Adams. Interesting.
And of course, for Garcia to pull it off, at some point, Wiley has to get eliminated. And if your read on that is correct, that's a relatively Adams-friendly batch when that gets reallocated, then obviously that would sort of dampen Garcia's prospects here. I want to take a look here at something that actually you flagged on Twitter. So how I first came upon it, I think, last night. This is the data for progress polling. And I think we have the summary of that here to pull up. This is the retrospective of their immediately pre-primary polling, just sort of patting themselves on the back for having the most accurate first round polling, which by all accounts they did. And so it sort of underlines what we're going to take a look at next, which is the sort of simulation of how the ranked choice voting retabulation would go based on their reweighted polling. If I understand this correct, it was sort of their final polling, but then reweighted according to the actual election day voter returns. And so this would presumably be the sort of most accurate way to recast what was already the most accurate polling going into primary day and incorporating all the second, third, fourth, fifth choice votes. And that showed, if we can bring up that other page, that in the hypothetical wherein Wiley gets eliminated, that Garcia actually winds up in front of Adams. And the converse was not the case. Whereas if Garcia gets eliminated, Adams still edged it out over Wiley, even though Wiley had more first round vote support than Garcia did. So how much stock do you put in Data for Progress as sort of methodology here generally of doing this sort of reweighting and simulation of how they would expect things to go upon retabulation? And does that impact your assessment that Adams, while it's going to narrow, doesn't have too much to worry about?
Look, I don't want to underestimate this poll. They did do a good job polling this race and others recently. That said, this is new to me. This kind of trying to take the election day preliminary results and then also kind of adding in some polling, spicing that on top. I think it's interesting, and I think it does, it might explain a little bit of that Garcia bump in the past couple of days where people having, as a lot of people have been saying on Twitter, overdosing on hopium, that Garcia can come back. But I'm not a true critic of polls. I don't know how to read them as an expert, but this one does seem a little bit new, if not suspect. So
Sure.
I still do think that Adams certainly has just a clear path to victory. And yes, that said, still technically possible that especially Garcia or Wiley could overcome this gap, because yes, even though RCV has been used in many other cities and countries and states, this is the first time in New York, and so we just don't know exactly how New York voters will use it and will react. Right.
There's another market also on PredictIt that's worth taking a quick look at too here. I don't think we have it queued up, but it's there if you want to go digging through the site. So there's two margin of victory markets here. One for the first round, which is now interestingly, it's not really even close to settled, only because the expected margin is landing right on about 9%. So you've got about half the probability in the 7.5 to 9 bracket and half in the 9 to 10.5 bracket. But that's sort of secondary to the overall point I wanted to make, which is that the other margin market, which is what the margin will be in the winning round, the fully retabulated, reallocated round, does sort of more quantify what the market expects to be, that narrowing. Here you go. Zach, our producer, has found the market I was looking for there. So instead of sort of centering it around 9%, you can see the kind of center of gravity of the probability here is more like 4% or even slightly under. No, I guess right around 4%, maybe slightly above. So that would show a narrowing of about 50%, about half of the margin being eaten up over the course of both the incorporation of the absentee ballots and the ranked choice voting retabulation. Does this sort of track with your overall sense of the what would be a reasonable magnitude to expect, when all the dust is settled and the results are certified, of a margin something like 4.5%?
Yeah, I think that would make sense to me. I mean, look, again, this is my first time dealing with a major RCV election, so I don't have a huge experience here. But yes, like I said, I think that all observers do expect Garcia and or Wiley to do better in not just the lower rankings, but also with absentees, because absentees traditionally, or at least last year, absentees leaned a little bit more progressive, and then also absentees often lean affluent. And we saw both Garcia and Wiley do better among progressive voters and among affluent voters. So we do think that the margin will definitely shrink from the current 9.5, 12 down to something much smaller. I personally still think Adams is going to hold on, but I think he's going to hold on, but less comfortably than he's currently appears to be sitting.
Yeah, makes sense. And that's certainly the consensus, and certainly seems to be a reasonable read, at least from where I'm sitting, in terms of what we can expect. But again, methodologically, that data for progress poll and the reweighting and everything, it seems reasonable, but it's a lot of guesswork just because we never have been down this road before. And so we could wind up with, real kind of wild surprise when this preliminary report does come in. Now, I know that initially folks were expecting or looking at something like a early to mid-afternoon, 1:30 release on this. You're there in City Hall. What is your latest read on when traders and the general public can actually expect to see these numbers coming out of the BOE?
Yes, so recent talk from the BOE is by close of business today. That is a very vague term. I'm expecting sometime around 6:30. That's when they've been releasing the absentee totals every day for the past week. So based on that trend, I think somewhere around 6 or 6:30 p.m. I will be furiously updating my computer.
Right. Best place for folks to keep tabs on that. Vote.nyc is the BOE's site. Is there anywhere that we might find things faster, or should we just simply be following you on Twitter? How can we try and stay ahead of the market?
I mean, look, vote.nyc they are the ones that will be posting and controlling all the information. So that's the place to get it. I'm sure they're also going to post on Twitter, and then all the political reporters will immediately, jump in and crack it open and look at it. But I think everyone's dealing with the same information whenever the Board of Elections chooses to drop it.
Perfect. Well, we will keep an eye on that. And Jeff, if you could just let people know how they can follow along with your analysis and your work on Twitter, City and State NY. Tell us where people can find you.
That's right. Yeah, I'm on Twitter at JCColtin. I think it's there on the screen. And yes, you can also check me out on cityandstateny.com, where I write, and I have a newsletter called Campaign Confidential. So if you want to be following the 2021 elections, and I'm going to be rolling in soon to 2022, that's New York State governor and all the congressional races and state senate, whatever. Campaign Confidential, find it on City and State, and follow my work. So thanks for having me, Flip.
Excellent. Yeah, excellent. Thank you for being here. That's a great resource for all of our traders. Hopefully we can have you back to talk about some of those 2022 races, in particular the New York governor one is one that we've been looking at and should be a lively one in the market. So thank you, Jeff, for helping us break this down. Thank you, all you viewers, for joining us. We're going to be back again at 1 p.m. Thursday. I believe that's tentative, but as long as you're subscribed and you hit that notification bell, you will never miss an episode. New traders, again, don't forget to claim that $25 deposit match by going to predictit.org/promo/oldbull25. Find us on Twitter at oldbulltv. Let us know your questions and requests for future market coverage. Thank you again for watching. Happy trading, and we will see you next time.